So, hello and welcome to the Kendall MMA channel. UFC Fight Night Tampa. Colby Covington versus Joaquin Buckley just ended a few days ago, and these are going to be my top 10 takeaways from the event. Now, this is a new series on this channel. This is my recap of the entire event. So, if you don't just want to hear every single fight one by one from other content creators, I'm going to give you basically the information you need to know to take away so that if you did miss the event or if you wanted to get just a quick recap, you get it right here, right now. And I think this is way more digestible and easier for you to consume as a viewer. So, as you know, these are 10 takeaways that I have. I'm going to go through each takeaway and tell you kind of how the event went. Starting off with our first takeaway of the event, it will be with the main event, and that was Joaquin Buckley putting a whooping on Colby Covington. Now, listen here. I wasn't the biggest fan of Joaquin Buckley for the longest time, and I won't lie to you. When he moved down to welterweight, I didn't have really any high hopes for him whatsoever. I was really skeptical of how he would do even against Andre Fialho. And since then, since he has moved down to welterweight, he has proved me wrong time and time and time again. I didn't think he would beat Luque. I didn't think. Well, I did pick him to beat Colby Covington, but I was just not here, kind of really, on the Joaquin Buckley train. And I think now that he's beating Covington, now that he's beaten Wonder Boy by KO, I have to really kind of fall in line here and eat my words and go back on what I originally thought about Joaquin Buckley and give him some sort of reevaluation. Now, in this matchup versus Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley just pretty much outstruck him the entire time. Colby Covington is just, I don't know if he's done or if it's like he's getting bad matchups, or I just don't think it's the same Colby anymore, man. After the Edwards loss, he just hasn't looked good whatsoever. I mean, even in that Edwards fight, he didn't look good. And it just seems like there's a new wave of contenders now in the welterweight division. And some of these old guys are sort of moving out now. And I think Colby Covington is part of that crew who's moving out. I think Usman's moving out. I think Colby, of course, like I just mentioned. I think some of these older guys who've been in the division for quite a while now are just not going to be here for much longer, honestly, because this is the same case when it comes to even light heavyweight. Like, I think Blachowicz is fighting soon. I think next year. I think he just got announced that he's fighting Carlos Olberg. I think he'll be moving out as well. I just think now is the time in the UFC where there has been enough time in between, older veterans and new prospects coming up. And I think it's time for the older veterans to kind of shift their way out and let the new contenders come in and let them become veterans. And then eventually they will move out and so on and so forth. And I think Colby Covington might be that sort of pioneer as the guy who's going to be going out very soon. I just think he's done. I think he's done. There's not much left for him. No KO power. His wrestling game is not really suited to the rules of MMA anymore. It's just hard to really hold down people with control time while you're not doing any damage and still win fights when you have the power of Colby Covington and the striking of Colby Covington. It's never been elite. It's never been amazing. Yes, he can strike somewhat, but he's never been this huge. I'm going to KO you. I'm going to hurt you several times. It's just that's just not who he is. And I feel like the way judging is being scored now, and the more emphasis we put on, damage, 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 I think his style is now on the way out. And with him aging, I just don't see him being too successful in the future. But however, with that being said, this loss, the way he lost by getting a cut and getting a doctor stoppage, I think is probably the best outcome for Colby Covington. If this went the full 5 rounds and he got dominated the entire time, it would be even more of me saying he's done, he's washed. But with him getting this cut, he can now say, you know what, it's BS. It's a cut. I was fine. There's been other cuts that have been far way worse than mine, and the fight kept on going. I feel like Colby Covington has a perfect excuse here to where he can still have a good narrative and you can still kind of still be excited about his future matchups. However, I kind of see through it, man. I don't think he's going to be anything amazing down the line. I guess next you give him somebody like maybe an Ian Gary. That matchup's still on the table, in my opinion. Give him, people say Wonder Boy. I say no. I say we only give Wonder Boy matchups that are fun and exciting from now on, since he's only 40 something years old now. And we want to have him just have good, fun fights while he's still in the UFC. So my opinion, we give Kobe Covington, Ian Gary. I think that's the matchup you want to make. Joaquin Buckley, I don't think it's time for him to get a title shot next. I think he needs still another win, which you could possibly give him Ian Gary as well. I don't know who you want to give him. I think he called it Kamaru Usman. I think Usman's fighting JDM here soon. So I don't know what's left on the table for Joaquin Buckley right now. There are some matchups. There aren't really that many. So we'll see what we do with Joaquin Buckley. Obviously, I think he deserves a higher ranked opponent now on. So, but even with that being said, he has definitely impressed me with his welterweight run. Moving on to our second takeaway, I'm going to go through the prospect report. And this is a weekly thing. If you don't know what this is, basically what I'm doing is I'm taking every single prospect from every single card. I forgot to add a couple ones. I wanted to add, Peyton Talbot and Gene Silva, because these are our perennial prospects right now. But we'll get there probably next time we see a UFC card next year. I guess. See you next year, guys. I'm kidding, but if you don't know what this is, go check out my last video, my last recap for UFC 310. You get a kind of a basic understanding here. Just looking at it, you probably understand what's going on. Basically, I take every single prospect from the card, and I put them in a little spreadsheet and give them a grade, and I rank them and I sort them based on who I think is the best prospect right now, based on who they fought and how they performed. So from this card, I went ahead and I added Joe Alvarez, Daniel Marcos, Felipe Lima, Sean Woodson, and Navajo Sterling. And I give them all grades. And I feel like right now our best prospect that came out of this card, I still think, is Joel Alvarez. I think he has looked amazing in his last 3 fights. His only, I guess, bad performance so far has been that Sarukian fight, which now that loss is not aging bad whatsoever. I think his Shakar Close performance was a dog level performance. I think he had a great showing against him. Obviously, he pretty much submitted him and KO'd him at the same time, which is, I think, incredibly impressive. I gave him a 91 overall score. I think his Elf Brenner was good. I think his Mark Jacasey one was probably, the one where you could be like, well, the grappling defense, maybe he can get taken down in the future, but still, he finished Mark Jacasey, so I'll give him 88 anyways. So, yeah, Yo Alvarez, probably one of the top prospects moving forward in the entirety of the UFC. I think there's some better ones out there, but still, I think he's a very, very high-level prospect right now who you can have some hope for. Daniel Marcos. The Adrian Yanez fight was really close. I think Adrian Yanez was giving him some problems, and it was, obviously a split decision. I thought Daniel Marcos won. I thought he won the third round. I think it was 1-1 going into that third round. I'm not too, blown away by Daniel Marcos still. I don't think he's going to be this crazy next-level prospect. I know he has a 90 on the grade here, but I think his performances have been good enough. Obviously, the Ilori Chileng one was a no contest, so I didn't grade it anyways. I didn't care to grade it because we didn't see him go the full 3 rounds or get a finish or anything like that. But Daniel Marcos, if you like him, still big excited about him. I am worried about him against a good, tough contender moving forward, but obviously got a good win. I'm proud of him, I guess, if he needs my recognition. Felipe Lima. Now, Felipe Lima, I gave him kind of a low grade here against Miles Johns. I think if you're a guy like Felipe Lima, you should be finishing Miles Johns. And when I watched him on the feet, man, his hands are down quite often. His striking isn't like this super crazy good striking. He can strike, don't get me wrong. Like, he doesn't have bad striking. It's not a hole in his game. But I do worry about him going forward. What I think he should do is obviously stick to the grappling. That part of his game, I think, is the best. So Miles Johns, I wasn't super hyped about his Miles Johns performance. He won. He clearly won. Kind of dominated. There was moments where Miles Johns had some success, but I just don't know if I'm completely, utterly sold on Felipe Lima. I think he will have potential. I do think he will probably find his way into the rankings in the future, but this Miles Johns performance made me feel kind of eh. Now moving on to Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson just Oh, Jesus, man. That first round versus Fernando Padilla really just rang a bunch of red flags for me, man. It seemed like after that one scramble, both these guys were gassed. I know Fernando Padilla was kind of going after Sean Woodson and putting a lot of pressure. Like, it felt like Padilla knew he couldn't go 3 hard rounds and he just wanted to get a finish as fast as he could. But still, I think after one scramble, I don't think Sean Woodson should be that gassed. Obviously, the Luis Saldana performance was very, very stinky, but nevertheless, he still gets a finish. He still puts out Fernando Padilla with a nice combination. So he gets a 75 for me. But it seemed like, yeah, he was winning that entire first round, but it was like, dude, like maybe you somebody who was good cardio can break you in the future. And that does worry me if he fights anybody who is a cardio maniac who's on EPO, which we know the UFC doesn't test for EPO. If you didn't watch that, more plates, more dates, Joe Rogan podcast recently, I figured that out. So the UFC doesn't really do any EPO testing, or their testing doesn't really find any EPO in anybody's system. So that's a whole different topic. I'm going on a tangent here. But Sean Woodson, 75, 82 overall. He will probably get a ranked opponent next. We'll see what happens with him. So I don't know. Navajo Sterling. I think this one is the biggest one that I have a lot of talk about with. If you're going to be this, out of city kickboxing, you train with Adesanya, you're this next level kickboxing prospect, you have 22 kickboxing fights, you're 5-0, you're a light heavyweight, you're a genetic specimen, you're a complete beast. You should be knocking out Tucker in the first round. I'm sorry. This should have been the easiest win of Navajo Sterling's career, which it's a very small career, professional career, if I might add that. But I I wasn't really too fond of the fact that he couldn't get him out of there. And Tucker in the first round seemed like he was ready to get out of there anyways. Like he was already gassed. Takedowns weren't really working. And eventually he was able to, I guess, tough it out and get down Navajo Sterling in the second and third round. That to me screams like you have some work to do. And I think Sterling, he's only 5-0. This is still really early into his professional career. His entire wrestling or UFC career where it involves grappling. So it's not the best part of his game yet, but it does scream like, okay, this guy needs a lot of work. So that's why I gave him a C. He's still a prospect. He has room to improve. He just needs to really work on, I guess, finding that perfect shot because he was landing, I mean, really amazing body shots on Tuckos here. Like, I'm surprised Tuckos didn't go down at some point to those, which maybe you could argue he does get a higher grade for that. But then again, I think you should be, like, if you're this next level prospect, you should be like one punch KOing Tuckos out cold or like TKOing him at the very, very least. And he couldn't do that. So, I'm worried for Sterling in the future, but I still think he has a good prospect you can keep your eyes on, or I still think he is a good prospect you can keep your eyes on. So, yeah. But with that being said, that was only for this event, and these will be my overall rankings here. Here are the overall rankings of the past two events. Obviously, we have Chase Hooper sitting at number one. I don't think I agree with that, personally. My analysis might be a bit flawed. My grading system might be a bit flawed, or maybe I'm just so unbiased that Chase Hooper is at number one. But obviously, Yo Alvarez is sitting here at number two, Daniel Marcus number three. I will be adding like Gene Silva and Payne Talbot into this list. They'll probably be number one and two, obviously, because those are the two biggest prospects we have right now. But just based off these last two events, these are my prospects you should keep an eye out on. Obviously, if you hit the rankings, you're out of here. If you drop below a 70 in grade, you're out of here. So, yeah, that is pretty much the prospect report. Obviously, we had to move Nzechukwu down. Lima's fine. But, yeah, that's the overall grade for all of these guys. I am worried for, again, Thimba Garimbo and Navajo Sterling. We'll see what they do. And Brian Battle to some extent. See what they do in their next fights. But as of right now, I guess Chase Hooper is at number one with a 92 overall grade from Kano MMA. It's stupid grade, but it is what it is. Moving on to our next big takeaway. It was, National Veterans Day. When you watched this event, it seemed like all the veterans got a dub. All of them got a win. I mean, David Grant got a win, a great performance. Michael Johnson got a nice KO. Cub Swanson got a sick KO. Dustin Jacoby got a sick KO, or Jacoby got a sick KO. So it seemed like all the veterans besides like Covington and I think like Jakar Close, if you consider him a veteran, all of them, well, those two didn't get a win, but every single other one got a good win and a good KO or a really fun fight out of it. The David Grant one I think was really impressive. Obviously, David Grant is still like that dude, like he can still beat some guys he can obviously still beat some guys at bantamweight, man. I wasn't really shocked. I picked Davy Grant on my topology picks. I thought he would win. I thought he'd beat Tavares. I thought he'd be way more active, and that's exactly what he was. He was way more active, and Tavares just couldn't really get any good boxing combos off. He did drop him once in the second round, but I felt like that was more off balance. He kind of caught the kick of David Grant at the same time with the right hand, and it seemed like he more so knocked him off balance than actually concussing him. So I didn't really count it as a knockdown. I don't know if the UFC counted that as a knockdown. Hopefully they didn't, but obviously it doesn't matter. David Grant had a great performance. Michael Johnson got a really sick KO, really nasty KO. I think it was a fading left hook he landed on the chin, knocked him out. Cub Swanson, retire. Retire. On that note, you just one punch slept Billy Q. I think it's time for him to call it quits, man. I don't really see him doing much. Like, there's not going to be a Cub Swanson run on the horizon here. There's not going to be a Cub Swanson going on a 5-fight win streak, getting back into the rankings. I don't see that happening. I think he should only have fun fights from here on out. And him being 41 years old, I think it's time for him to go out on a really big high note and a really sick KO and just call it a career. But with that being said, I still do really love Cub Swanson. I think he is my most favorite like veteran or a legend of the sport, man. He just is so much fun to watch. His striking style, the way he fights, is just so much fun. And I just can't respect Cub Swanson more. But Dustin Jacoby, nice KO. Arguably, you could say he was losing, but I think he was doing better on the feet versus Vitor Petrino. But doesn't matter anyways. Gets a nice right hand down the pipe. Sleeps Vitor Petrino out cold. Great win from Dustin Jacoby. Yeah, these veterans Saturday just went crazy. They went nuts. They went nuclear, and they all got wins. So I'm proud of them, man. Good job of the veterans, bro. I picked most of them to win. I think I picked Michael Johnson. I picked Cub Swanson. I didn't pick Jacoby. I thought Petrino would be the one hurting him at moments, and I picked Davy Grant. So good day for me picking-wise, and good day for the veterans as well. Moving on. What's the next one? Manel Cap Masterclass. Manel Cap, absolute master class. Manel Cap looked amazing. He looked great. And honestly, he's probably next for a title shot. There really isn't anybody else at featherweight, or flyweight, sorry. At flyweight, there's not anybody else. I mean, maybe you can do him versus Kai Kara France, and the winner of that fights Pantoja, but that means Pantoja has to sit out for quite a while. Do I think the UFC should do that? Possibly, or just give Manel Cap straight up a title fight. I think I do lean in the favor of giving him Kai Kara France. That matchup is really, really hyped. That would sell. I put it in Australia. There's an Australia card coming up soon. So I think Manel Cap should fight Kai Kara France for a title elimination bout. But getting into the Manel Cap performance, just absolute masterclass. Put it on Bruno Silva. The only way Bruno Silva could prevent himself from getting finished, even though he did get finished in this fight, but the only way he could, delay the inevitable was by just groin striking Manel Cap like 3 or 4 times. I mean, there were several times in this fight where he just straight up just groin striked him when he was about to get absolutely pieced up. So Bruno Silva looked kind of, I thought this would be a closer fight, honestly, but Manel Cap put it on him pretty much. He just did everything well. I mean, there isn't much to say, man, about Manel Cap. He just full-on dominated Bruno Silva and then finished him by TKO. And the only reason it didn't happen sooner is because he had groin strike 3 times. So, Manel Cap is amazing. I think he redeemed himself when he's not fighting guys who want to take him down and stall. Makayev, he looks amazing. He does. He does look amazing. Obviously, he's funny. He might have dropped it again. He was trying to drop it again, I think he was. But he cut out Adesanya, cut out Kai Kara France. Dude's just based. He's just him. Obviously, he's probably the most entertaining flyweight right now in terms of personality. I think Pantoja's kind of boring, but he's a good fight style, I won't lie to you. But Manel Cap, I think, is that dude. But overall, the card, I know the takeaways were probably short. I know why I said top 10 takeaways. I have 10 on my Google sheet here, but I kind of combine like 5 with the prospect sheet. But my 10th takeaway, if that's even a takeaway for this video, overall great card. Amazing card. Uh Came off a little bit slow. Actually, never mind. I lied for my takeaway. You know what? I'll just add one more free takeaway at the end of the video. But overall, great card, man. You know, there were some stinkers, but Davy Grant versus Ramon Tavares was a great, great matchup. Lee May versus Miles Johns, still a good fight. Not the best fight, but still a good fight. Sean Woodson got a great finish. Alvarez got a good finish. Michael Johnson got a great finish. Sterling had a good fight overall. Wasn't the best performance from him, no, but still a good fight overall. Daniel Marcos versus Adrian Yanez was a great fight. Jacob got a sick KO. Manel Cap got a sick KO. Swanson, sick KO. Buckley was whooping on Colby Covington. So overall, I mean, this is one of the better fight nights of the year, in my opinion. This is one of the best cards that we've had fight night wise in a long time. You know, I think some of these fight nights have been very, very lame and boring. And this one, to end the year, lived up to it, man. It definitely put the UFC's end of 2024 on a good high note. So I'm excited. Cub Swanson and Billy Q got fight of the night. Jacoby got performance of the night. So did Michael Johnson. Which, I mean, dude, give one to like Sean Woodson or something, or Alvarez. You know, Michael Johnson's made his money. You know, Jacoby's made his money. So is Cub Swanson. He's been in the UFC for such a long time. Like, give some of these guys who, you know, are younger prospects who aren't as big as contracts some bread here. But you know, it is what it is. So overall, great card. I give it like a solid 9.5 out of 10. Honestly, 9.5 out of 10 for me. But we'll go ahead and move on to our little bonus takeaway, our last takeaway of the video. This might be a quick one here, but women's prospects aren't real. Like, they just don't exist, apparently. Like, we had Piera Rodriguez versus Josephine Knudsen. Knudsen was a prospect coming in. She looked pretty decent in her last matchup, and she gets grappled up and controlled for 3 rounds and loses. I just don't know what to do with any women's prospects. It's the same thing as heavyweight, you know, men's heavyweight. They just don't end up being good ever. I don't know what's going on. We have a guy or a girl come in who's like 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, and they get fraud checked immediately once they're in the UFC. So I guess these prospects aren't real. If you ever do see a women's prospect who's like 8-0, 9-0, just pick against them in their first few fights. Honestly, there's just no point. If they're fighting a woman who can grapple, who's known for grappling, yeah, don't pick them. Don't pick the prospect because they're just probably going to lose. So yeah, it's tough for these women's prospects. Same thing for men's heavyweights. Shamil Ghazi, I'm looking at you. Rebellis of Spain, I'm looking at you as well. From now on, if you are betting or if you are like really into your picks, I would really consider like looking into this and being like, is this girl a prospect? Is this man a heavyweight prospect? And if they are, you might want to pick against them. I hate to say it, but you just might want to do that because I feel like their return rate of winning is just absolutely in the gutter. It's so low. It's terribly low. So yeah, don't pick women's prospects or men's heavyweight prospects anymore. Just don't do it. It is what it is. But with that being said, that was, I guess, the 10 takeaways or the takeaways you need to know after UFC Fight Night Tampa. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, bell icon for notifications. But I'll see you guys later. Peace.